I think it's a lot of mindfulness. I think it's a lot of awareness, and it's a lot of honesty. So it's being honest with the people around you when it affects those relationships, being able to be accountable, and sometimes having like humility and being able to say like, hey, this is a me thing, this isn't a you thing.
Okay, welcome back to You Need a Counselor podcast. My name is Julie Johnson. I am the president and founder of Heart and Solutions. We are a counseling agency here in Iowa. We are doing outpatient mental health counseling services by phone, in the office, or in our local schools. We're also doing in-home behavioral health counseling services for kids. We're doing those by telehealth, or we're doing those in your home or in our office or in the schools.
And I'm Chrissa. I am the Vice President at Heart and Solutions in charge of the Behavioral Health Department. So I supervise that program that Julie just mentioned, BHIS, where we go in-home and work with children ages 4 to 18 on different behavioral skills. And then like Julie said, we can also see them in the school, in our office, or telehealth right now as well. And this is our podcast, You Need a Counselor. So we are designed for people curious about counseling, but have barriers keeping them from experiencing the benefits of counseling. Our mission is to share stories about counseling, good, bad, and indifferent, and spread the message that everyone can benefit from mental health and behavioral health counseling services.
So we post on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Central Time. So anywhere that you listen to podcasts, I listen on Spotify. So wherever you listen to podcasts, or you can follow us on YouTube or Facebook as well. We post the full videos on there. So we always say batch up your laundry or batch up some task you hate doing. Do your meal prep on Sunday night. Go ahead and listen to this week's episode, and then that gives you the entire week to get scheduled with your counselor or to call and get set up with counseling. So this week we've got a special guest. We've got Brittany Weidman here with us. Hey, Brittany.
Okay. Hello.
Hi, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Of course.
I'm going to brag on Brittany a little bit. So Brittany is a BHIS, Behavioral Health Intervention Specialist here at Heart and Solutions, and she is a supervisor. So she supervises behavioral health intervention counselors in the Cedar Rapids area and also in the Waterloo area, if you're here in Iowa. So Brittany has been working here with us for a long time. I love talking about Brittany and to Brittany. That sounded weird, but I love talking to you, Brittany. But one thing I will say about Brittany, the way that she approaches her clients, Brittany has such a relatable feel. When you talk to Brittany, she is so relatable, and Brittany will find ways to relate with anybody. A 4-year-old child, a 10-year-old child, an 18-year-old child, a 50-year-old grandma. Brittany will find something that she has in common with that person. I think it always strikes me as one of Brittany's truly, truly great strengths. And it's just always so beautiful to watch that. And as she talks about her clients, hearing that relatability that Brittany brings to those sessions. So I really want to brag on that a little bit. Brittany's got so much experience here in the human services field. Her bachelor's is in social work. She has worked with NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Health. She's worked in the public school system. Brittany loves volleyball. Coaches volleyball, loves volleyball. Yes. Which I'm so excited about hearing about that because it's varsity volleyball, which is, I think, a little bit different than maybe some other types that we might have in our heads. So I love hearing about that. And currently a BHIS supervisor here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and Waterloo, Iowa. So welcome, Brittany. Thank you for being here.
Of course. I'm excited to talk today.
Yes. And not only are you a professional, you've been in this field for quite some time, but you have experienced your own counseling services.
Absolutely. Yep. I've been in counseling for quite a long time. I think I started going when I was about somewhere between 14 and 15. I usually just say 15. Yeah, I started going to counseling, and well, I should say, the process of finding a therapist that worked for me and going into counseling.
Oh. Was that a long process for you? That can be quite a long process sometimes.
Yeah, you know what? Initially it was, and to be completely honest, it almost turned me away from it. Because, off the bat, you're going through what you're going through as a teenager, which I'm sure we can all empathize with, is tough. And then going with the things I was experiencing at that time in my life, I wasn't ready or really willing, to put myself out there for anybody, or honestly even go through the effort of finding somebody who fit for me. I remember my mom saying, hey, you really need to see a therapist, and I set you up with a therapist and you're going to go. And I was like, okay. And, did the whole thing, like, you're going to go or I'm going to take your phone from you. Like, whatever it was at the moment, like basically you're going. And I was like, okay, whatever. Yeah, I'll go. And I went, and it just wasn't a fit for me. And I remember telling her, like, I'm not going to go talk to that person again. Like, I just didn't feel comfortable. I don't want to go back. Like, therapy just isn't for me. And my mom is a social worker. She's very successful at what she does up in Minnesota. And she was like, no, Brittany, like, counseling is for everyone. You just need to find the right counselor. So, we went on whatever website we went on and looked through all the pictures of all the local therapists. And I found the one that I felt like, through their image, that I would maybe be able to connect with. And we went, and I fit well with that person. And that's kind of how I got started on my journey with therapy. So.
I love that. One, that you were open to selecting your own person, and that you have the opportunity to do that. That's so important, especially at that age, but really at any age. I mean, even younger children, being able to hear the bios and be able to look at photos of the person, or look at photos of the office where they're going to be, can just be so comforting, and give you a little bit of choice in the matter. It sounds like you didn't have a ton of choice on whether you were going to go, but you did have choice, and you were being empowered by your mom to say, but you get to choose who it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Being someone who I've struggled with anxiety for a long time, people with anxiety might be able to relate to, when things are not in our control, it can be very overwhelming. So like you said at the beginning, finding something relatable, it's something that I based my whole career off as a professional. Like, I wanted to find something that was relatable to me, that I could go in and soothe my anxiety. Like, hey, this lady, she's blonde, just like me. She looks like me. She's young. I remember picking the lady. I remember looking at her like, okay, she's blonde. She's young. She looks like she would be fun. I remember seeing a tattoo in her. I have tattoos myself now as an adult, but I remember seeing a tattoo in there. I'm like, she looks so cool. Like, yeah, I'll go talk to that lady. So yeah, just like putting that control in my hands to find somebody who I felt like would be relatable, because initially, when we go to see a counselor, we don't have a connection. We don't know what we're relatable on. We don't know if we're going to even be able to connect. So just giving myself that connection of, okay, well, we're both young and blonde, and we both look like we're cool people. Let's go have a conversation. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think that's super, super, super important, that relatability piece, but also just giving yourself a little bit of control in the situation if you're like me and struggle with anxiety. So.
Yeah, and I love that you had a relationship with your mom where you were able to say, I don't like that person I went to, and where you were able to identify that that's how you're feeling, express how you're feeling to a support person who said, okay, let's find you somebody else, right?
Yeah.
I think that's so important. So now, as a parent, being able to go, yeah, that is really important. Making sure that, our kids and the kids that we work with, and the kids that in our neighborhoods and in our churches, right, the kids that we're interacting with, that they do have that voice.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then you started when you were about 15 and found this person. And how did that go for you? What was your experience in counseling at that time?
Oh, my experience in counseling has been a journey that I am still on. And honestly, if I foresee the future, probably will continue to be on. Life from the time I was about 13 until now, even today, has kind of always thrown its punches. So counseling has always helped me navigate through those situations, and my counseling has changed. Even when I had the same counselor in Minnesota, and now coming in Iowa, I have had the same counselor since I moved here. I connected with the first one I found, which was fantastic. But it's been a journey. Like when we start with the counseling and I introduce and I talk about my history, it morphs over time. You know, we have a goal, let's address this, let's tackle this issue and try to help you find peace, or, you know, find resolve, or teach you skills to address the concerns that are going on. And then a new challenge will come about and my counseling modifies. And, you know, that's why I say for the foreseeable future, I don't envision ever leaving counseling, because, you know, life never stops. There's so many beautiful things in life, but it does come with struggle, and the struggle never stops. So, you know, it's like, there's always gonna be something stressing you out, and just having somebody there to like help you work through the coping through that, or even if you just need to vent, or maybe you need skills, or maybe you need EMDR training. I've been through EMDR training myself. I mean, maybe you need different things that a counselor can provide at different moments of need. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for myself too, I mean, I started around the same age that you did. And I am a lifelong client, just a lifelong client, because like you said, I love what you're saying about like, it doesn't stop. Like you feel like you get over one hurdle in life, right? Or you feel like things are starting to come to, and then it's like, bam, there is something else
absolutely
flying our way, you know? And I used to feel like, especially, you know, even in like my younger 20s, I used to feel like, okay, if I can just get over this thing, if I can just hit that milestone, if I can just hit this thing or get this going or whatever, that it would be okay, you know? And I used to have that, what do they call that? Like destination addiction, right? Like where it felt like, okay, if I could just do that or go here, do this, then it would be okay. And it never was, because there was something else always coming at me, or like I would create something new to be able to have to either to overcome, right, or to do for myself. And then it really, counseling does help me to go, okay, if I am a lifelong counseling client, then I can accept that I'm always going to be in a phase of life where I need counseling, like always. There isn't a phase of life that I can foresee going, you know, my daughter's 5, she's going to be a middle schooler, like she's going to be a high schooler, and then I'm going to be an empty nester and have to deal with that separation, right? Like and then I'm going to have to deal with grandkids and my daughter messing up parenting them and all all of that stuff. I'm always going to have something. And so it sounds really pessimistic, but what it did for me too was it took the pressure off of this moment, this challenge.
Away.
Yeah, it was like, well, that's the one that it is right now. After that, there's going to be another one, and so forth. Yeah, I think that's such a great way to look at it, right? But there's always more.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. And it actually took my counselor here. I came and I remember the first time I sat down with her and I knew I was going to click with her. This is totally something that would send so many people away. And I told her that too. I'm like, you would send so many clients away if you said that, but like you roped me in, because I love bold people and I love honesty, and I need that in my counselor, somebody who's honest. And I remember sitting down and telling her like what I've been through. And I remember saying like, why me? Like it never stops. And I never feel like I get a break, and I don't understand why I'm going through test after test after test. And I remember like, looking back now, it was a very appropriate statement for how I was feeling, but also like she looked at me and she was like, well, don't you just sound like you got an ego? Like, you know, like, what do you like, you know, like she just flat out was with it. And I was just like, you know, like, what did you just say? I'm like, yes, I love that, because I did, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't just me. It wasn't just me going through those trials. Everybody around me, everybody I know was going through either similar stuff, maybe not quite as extreme, but they were going through their own version of what they were going through. And it wasn't just me. And it's not just me in this world that was experiencing those things. And she totally brought that to light. Like, stop having so much pity on yourself and just do what you need to do to address it. And it was really eye-opening for me. And I feel like I had been in counseling prior, but when I moved here, I was 25, 26. And when she said that to me, I think that's truly when I started to make actual change in counseling, when I had a more open scope and an open mind to like, you know what, it's not just me, like get out of, my version of a pity party at the moment and do what I need to do. And counseling has brought that to me. So yeah, I'm very grateful for what counseling has done for me in my life. So
that is awesome. I love that. I mean, it's a risk for her to say something like that, right, in this session. And for you, it was like, okay, yes, I am ready to hear that. I need to hear that. Awesome. Good. We've established this. Let's move from it. And then for other people, like you identified, like that scares some people. And what I love about that is it's highlighting how we all have different needs. And even as you talked about before, your counseling when you were 15 and your counseling now are totally different because you're a different person now than you were then. And you have different needs in this moment than you did a year ago in counseling. So yeah, I love that. And I think it also highlights that, not every counselor style is going to be for everybody, but when you find that fit, you can really utilize that. And like you said, utilize it to make changes in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Goodness. Yeah. Anxiety is such a hard one, especially like you have, not to diagnose you, because I would not diagnose you, but you appear to have very high functioning anxiety. You have the kind of anxiety that makes you function at a high level. Do you agree?
I do not agree with that. Yeah, thank God. I'm going to say this probably 10 times throughout this, but thank God for counseling, because it has allowed me the skills to be someone who functions very well and very highly with anxiety. But I would say, as soon as the laptop closes or the workday is done, it all comes about, so, and that's something I'm trying to process through too, because anxiety to be a functioning person with anxiety doesn't mean that you have to suppress it and bear the burden all day long too, to the point where at the end of the day, you do fall apart, which was for a while how I managed it. And now I've come about and I'm getting there, that's why I say it's a process. It might take 10 more years. It might take 10 more months. Who knows? You know what I mean? But, yeah, it's a process. I do function well in that, I can do things that unfortunately anxiety limits a lot of people in. Some people, they don't maintain relationships well or maintain jobs well just because of that barrier that anxiety creates in those situations. So I am able to like sustain the things that a functioning adult would sustain. Well, but I guess maybe I don't feel like I function highly, but maybe I do. I don't know.
I don't feel like I function highly either. I think that's such a big part of it, is I love what you're identifying in terms of like from somebody who works with you, knows you, talks to you, you appear like you have extremely high functioning anxiety, right? And the thing is that kind of high functioning anxiety from the outside can so often get overlooked and can so often be minimized because, well, you're doing a great job and you've got a great family, and all of these things that people kind of like checkbox in their head. Are you doing okay in life? And anxiety doesn't care. Like it does not care what your job is. It doesn't care if you're in the mental health field or not. Like it just doesn't care. And so, what I love about what you're sharing is just it is highlighting that, you can be a professional in this field. You can be doing a great job. You can be killing it at your job. You can be killing it at volleyball, right? You can be killing it with your family and being a great mom and still have to do the work. You're doing the active work. And so whether we're, I think a lot of people talk about suffering from anxiety. And yeah, it's painful having anxiety. And we're either suffering from it or we're doing the work because we're suffering from it, right? And you are doing the work. And so from the outside, it's like, if I've seen Brittany do public speaking, I've seen Brittany do all of these things, you wouldn't associate with having anxiety like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And something I've learned through therapy and self-reflection, and my mom tells me all the time, Brittany, your greatest strength is self-awareness. Like, not many people are able to say, hey, this is what I did wrong in that situation. There are a lot of people who can do that, but there are a lot of people who struggle with not being able to say, this is where I was at fault in that situation, and this is how I could have done it different, or this is where I need to improve to be better. And so one of the things when I was self-reflecting along the way is, and just learning about anxiety and how it affects me, to the point where now a lot of people tell me that, like, it doesn't appear like you have anxiety, and I'm like, you just don't even know, but like I had to learn that my anxiety takes form of, I am very confident, and I think that's why I come off that way in leadership roles, or just confident in myself, what I bring to the table, what I contribute, my decisions. I know I'm going to make the right decision. I know I'm going to put in 100% of the effort. I know I'm going to do those things for me in my mind. I know. So I come across, I think, confidently, and I've learned this through therapy, that sometimes anxiety takes this form. What I don't know, and my anxiety kind of shapes around control. I don't have control about other people's decisions, and I don't have control about the way that they go about their day, or what they think about me even, or I don't have control if the person driving on the road beside me has made the choice not to drink and drive, and who knows what could happen then. Like, I don't have control about other people. So that outside world of no control about what's going on around me, and those things could ultimately affect me, even though I am in control of what I'm doing and my decisions and doing the right thing. But somebody else's lack of could bring me harm, pain, suffering, et cetera, et cetera. That is where my anxiety tends to be a big barrier for me, and has limited life experiences, or, limited things in which I could maybe have grown even further, but it's held me back.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that you recognize that you can't control the people around you or the circumstances always around you, it is it's a really positive thing, because that's a hard thing to let go of. Yeah. And, and a lot of times what you're describing with that anxiety about, well, what other people do is going to impact me. A lot of times that takes the form of, well, then trying to control the people around us, and trying to, do things to make things happen, change people's mind, right? Things like that. And so it's an important step back, going, I cannot control those things. Yeah. And then that brings its own anxiety. It's the reason why we try to control it, because the anxiety that comes with, I can't control it. And that's an important acknowledgement to make in this world. But the anxiety that comes with that is very challenging. It reminds me of, like, my mom used to say when I was a teenager and when I was first driving, she would say, I trust you, but I don't trust the other people out there.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
She would always say that to me. And because if she would, limit my curfew, or limit, how far I could drive or something, I would say, you don't trust me. And she would say, I do trust you. I don't trust the other, I'm in Massachusetts, so the other 1,000 people on the highway, right? It is such a challenging thing to do that. And what do you think that next step is after? So acknowledging that, yep, we can't control other people. And honestly, when we try to, we cause ourselves so much more pain. We cause ourselves so many more problems when we try to control the people around us. So once we acknowledge that, now we've got the anxiety of, well, then what do I do with that? What do you think that next step is?
Yeah. And that's the step I'm in now. So I'm in, like, the active practice, part of going through therapy. So, I think it's mindfulness. I think it's a lot of mindfulness. I think it's a lot of awareness, and it's a lot of honesty. So it's being honest with the people around you when it affects those relationships. Being able to be accountable, and sometimes having, like, humility, and being able to say, like, hey, this is a me thing. This isn't a you thing. Having that tough conversation, or just having awareness for it. Like, there'll be times where I'll catch myself while I'm driving, I can feel my anxiety building. It's nighttime, and I'm like, like what if this happens, what if this happens? And I have to walk through and do a lot of that self-soothing talk, or use my coping skills that I've learned along the way, whether it be, I do a lot of grounding exercises when I can feel personally I'm about to have a panic attack or something is coming along. I've worked with my current therapist on a lot of grounding exercises that I can do actively in the moment, even when I'm driving or whatever. And I practice those at least once a day. I would say that I do some sort of grounding exercise for myself, to soothe my anxiety. So I think it's just learning what works for you. And you have to do that through exploration. And that exploration comes through finding a counselor that works best for you, and seeking out that counseling and getting that assistance to get to the point where you now have this tool belt that can assist you in moments where you struggle.
I love that. What's one of your favorite to do in the car? This is great. What's one that you do in the car while you're driving?
Yeah. So while I'm in the car or just anywhere, my favorite one to do, and I don't know why it works for me. I think it's just because it takes the focus away from thought. But so I do 5 things I can see, and you recite them out loud. That's like the number one key that I've learned that makes it successful for me, is reciting it out loud. I don't do it in my head because it adds thoughts to my head. If I say it out loud, it gives it an out, so, 5 things I see, and it's 4 things I hear, and it's 3 things. I think it's 3 things I can smell. It kind of shifts. And then 2 things I can feel, which when you're driving, usually it's like steering wheel, or like if I have soft clothes on, I'll feel my soft clothes or whatever. And then it's 1 thing I can taste. That one I kind of mold sometimes. So if I can't taste anything, like if I haven't eaten anything, or if I don't have, like I have gum beside me, I'll put gum in, or mint, and I'll be like, oh, I can taste mint. You know what I mean? If not, I kind of modify, and I'll just, I tend to just do like, talk about my happiest memory, or talk about something that makes me happy, 1 thing that makes me happy, and talk about it. And that's kind of my modification there. But yeah, and by the time I go from that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I've taken my focus away from my thoughts. I've verbalized a lot of different things. I can feel myself in a lot of therapy. We've done this in office, or she'll have me actively practice outside of sessions. And then when I first started doing it, I would be journaling afterwards, or, just jotting down on my phone, like, what did you experience before and after this was happening? Right. So before, I feel like I'm going to faint. I'm really sweaty. I can feel my heart beating. You know what I mean? Like that pit in your stomach, it's just coming up into my throat. Like whatever experience symptoms that I'm having, that's alluding to me, oh, you're about to have a panic attack. You're about to freak out. You need to calm down. After the exercise, then I feel more manageable. I feel like I can put this to bay right now, at least, and I can focus on the task that I'm heading to do. And I can revisit this later, or I can jot down that what was my trigger in that moment. And now I am calm enough. My body isn't having those physiological symptoms that's limiting the logical part of me, saying, whoa, this is not reasonable. Is this life or death right now? Is this a pressing issue? Do you have to be having this reaction? So once I calm myself down and the logical part of me can take back over, that's kind of helped me a lot. So that's probably my favorite one. I do that one the most. There's a few, but that one, I definitely would say that one's worked the best for me.
I love that. And that's a great one to be able to do anywhere. It doesn't matter where we are, that we can do it. And I love that you practice saying it out loud, especially if you're in the car by yourself, like, why not? And being able to say it out loud. I do that one with my daughter too. And she's 5, and I make her say it to me. I'll say, like, because she'll point sometimes, like she'll try to point to the thing she sees, and I'm like, what is it called though? And because it allows us to, it shows our body that we're not about to need to run from a tiger. Like we don't have to prepare our nervous system for that. Our body can put more energy into our cognitive functioning than it's trying to, right? Because it thinks that we're trying to run from a tiger. And so, I love that one. And I love that you that you were able to learn for yourself that like, hey, this works best for me when I say it out loud versus when I say it in my head. That's such great insight into ourselves and knowing that. And, you know, if you didn't have the openness to trying it and working with it and tweaking it, then you might do it in your head and go, that doesn't work. Like I don't feel any better. Right. But you have openness to go, well, let me try it this way. Let me try it this way. And you had a counselor to kind of support you through doing that. I think that's really great. Yeah. Do you use that in your sessions too, when you're working with your clients?
Yeah, I do that with clients. And, you know, for some of them, I get feedback, you know, like, oh yeah, I feel more calm. Or sometimes it's like, oh yeah, it made me feel tired. You know, I think sometimes when you have running thoughts all day long and they're not there anymore, it feels like, you know, like it's a calmness that sometimes is almost uncomfortable to people if you're used to like anxious thoughts, or not even anxious thoughts, even people who struggle with ADHD and their mind is just running all day long. To get your mind to just calm for a second can almost be, you know, am I exhausted? Am I tired? Like what's going on? This is a weird sensation. I'm not used to stillness. So sometimes I get tired feedback. Sometimes I'm like, you know, sometimes they don't like it. And I try to emphasize like, hey, I probably went through 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 7 different things that didn't work for me. Snapping a hair tie is something we tried and it didn't work for me. It works for a lot of people. It didn't work for me as a distraction mechanism for my anxiety. Fidgets worked for me a couple of times, but for the most part didn't, you know, the fidget spinners and all that stuff. And it was just finding what worked for me. You know, and I try to emphasize that with my clients too, like not everything, I'm not an expert on you. I can bring you the tools, but I'm not an expert on you. So I have this tool belt here, and this one, and this one, they might not work for you. And it's a puzzle. We got to piece this together. And once we get it, it's going to be awesome. But if this doesn't work for you, that's okay. Because, you know, 5 things didn't work for me either until I found one, you know? So I think that's really important to know. So I do it with my clients, but I also try to, you know, spare them the like almost burden of like, oh my gosh, I better tell Brittany that this was awesome, by trying to headway by like, listen, if this doesn't work, it's okay, you know? So
that's right. I love that. I love that you're presenting it that way because, you know, it could be easy to try coping skills and then kind of get focused or stuck on like, well, that one didn't work. But I love the focus on like, you only need one. So if we try 25 of them and one of them works and helps you, we're success, right? We're not 1 for 25, we're 1 for 1, you know, like we're doing great. So I love that you present it that way to them at the start so that they can kind of normalize that, like, no, it is throwing spaghetti at the wall. It really is. And if one strand of that spaghetti, paw full of spaghetti sticks to the wall, we're good. We're golden. Yeah, I love that. That's really, really, it's just cool that you use your own experiences to help the people that you work with too, and the kiddos that you work with. I know for me too, I mean, having that experience of counseling in childhood and knowing how I felt about it at the time. I mean, I spent an entire year not talking to my counselor. It wasn't my choice to go, I don't want to talk to this person. I liked one thing about her, and that it was she always had a Starbucks coffee with her, and that was it. And I did not talk to this person for a year, and it still helped me. And you know, having that experience, it made me a believer, you know, from an early age that this still works. So I love your story of that and how you're using that now. As an adult and as a counselor. When you're working with somebody with maybe a child then with anxiety, you know, do you feel like you maybe approach that person with more understanding, more empathy, having gone through similar, or how does that work for you?
Yeah, you know, I think it makes it easier. I think in any experience that you have in life, it's easier to relate to that person if you've had a similar experience, or you can understand why or what's going on or whatever the case may be. So I think, yeah, it does make me, I think, understand different aspects of it, that because I've experienced it, maybe they're not verbalizing it, but I can maybe take a guess or relate it in my, when I'm reflecting on my client or after I meet with them and I'll be back, like I can reflect on my own experience and be like, I remember feeling very similar to this when I was going through a situation similar to that. So maybe they don't have the tools to verbalize that right now or express that, and really get those feelings out there, or maybe don't even know that anxiety is what they're experiencing, but just based on what they're telling me, what they're going through, or maybe just the way they're interacting with relationships, maybe the way that they're interacting with mom and dad or with their peers at school, that can be a telling sign of someone too who has anxiety. So I think I think as far as anxiety goes, like I always tell everyone, like I'm an expert on anxiety and I'm a complete newbie at the same time, because you can never truly be an expert on it. But anything I feel like that could give you anxiety, or does on a daily give you anxiety, like I have anxiety about it, or I've experienced that situation in life. So I feel like I have like a realm of just like bookshelves in my mind, just like, where can I pull a book from that I had this experience, and try to do the best I can to help this person based off my experience. But also, aside from that, putting that aside, like based on, the training that I've had as a counselor in social work with my degree and through my experience too. It's just a big bundle of things that I try to bring to the table when I, and part of that is my own experience. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think as we go through education and counseling or in social work and are learning these concepts, they're theory and unless they're real, right? So like we learn a lot of theories, but kind of having being able to put some of our own personal experiences onto those theories, or to having seen some of those theories in person or seen some of those treatments in person, can just really make that more real as we're learning. Yeah, I think that's great. I just want to circle back too and ask you about, how did you learn? Was it through counseling? It sounds like maybe it was, it sounds like you had a journey of self responsibility, right? Being able to make amends, being able to admit when we are human, like we are going to make mistakes all the time. We are going to hurt people by mistake. We are going to insult people and not mean it at all. Like we are going to do all kinds of things that don't fit with our character and how we see ourselves, but we still do them because we're human and we're not perfect. And I loved what you said about being able to identify that, say it to the person, make amends. Was that something that you learned in counseling? Was that kind of an active thing that you learned there?
Yeah. So, a long journey has brought me to the point of counseling. And I remember when I got to this counselor, my bold, wonderful counselor, one of the statements she would say to me over and over and over again is, your trauma doesn't define you. And I had to really not only hear that, but own that. That my trauma and my reaction to those traumatic experiences, or even the experiences after the fact, which caused all the anxiety that I've struggled with, those things aren't Brittany. They're not my character. To be somebody who's afraid, or whatever the emotion is that you may feel, my trauma doesn't define me, and I can be who I am, who I feel like I am, who I want to be, or whatever. So I think, yeah, I definitely picked that up through counseling. And as you were talking, like that phrase just came to my head, because I remember she would say it to me all the time, especially in the beginning, like, well, your trauma doesn't define you. And by that meaning too, like your trauma and the reactions that you've developed due to that trauma or due to that anxiety, that doesn't need to be the way you react forever. Because you got those reactions or you have this anxiety from the trauma, you don't have to carry that the rest of your life. That's not a burden or a weight that you have to always bear. So which can affect our personality and it can affect our day-to-day and stuff like that. So just knowing like your trauma doesn't have to be who you are, whether like the memories you have from it and or the reactions you have to day-to-day situations. Like if someone looks at you funny and you have trauma related to that, you know, I'm not reacting being like, why the heck are you looking at me like that, and causing conflict and confrontation with people in my day-to-day life, you know, as an example. I don't need to be that person that's reactive. So I definitely think I learned that in therapy as well, that, you know, you don't have to be defined by your trauma in any sense of the word whatsoever.
That's huge. That's really, really huge. Absolutely. I mean, when I was a child and a teenager, I thought that my social anxiety symptoms, I thought that was my personality. Like,
Yeah.
I just thought that, like, I had no idea what my actual personality was. I
Yeah.
thought that was my personality, right? Quiet, shy, afraid. I thought that was just who I was. I didn't understand that, like, no, those are symptoms
Yeah.
that are changing my behavior from like what my personality actually is, right? And I had an attachment disorder as a child. And so I thought, like, this is just how I am with people.
Yep.
Those are symptoms.
Yeah. Literally.
They're symptoms.
Yeah.
And I, you know, it's almost like if, you know, if I break my leg and I have my leg broken for so long that I just think like, oh, I'm just a person who like can't use their leg, right? But maybe I have never had a cast on my leg to
Absolutely.
set the leg and heal it. And now I'm a person who walks with two legs. Like it's amazing how many pieces of people of our own personality that we think is our own personality, or in other people. When we see other people and we go, oh, that's a toxic person, or oh, that's a terrible person, or that's a great person, or a lot of time what we're seeing is symptoms. We're seeing symptoms, not who that person is. And even on the positive side, like, you know, people pleasing is a symptom. It's an anxiety symptom, you know, high achievement is an anxiety symptom. And so sometimes even on the positive side, we go, oh, we love that person. That person's so great. But we're seeing is symptomology of something else. And so I love that you are, and your therapist, you are saying, nope, that's not who I am. Like, that doesn't define me. I love that. Absolutely. So I love that anybody listening can hear that your trauma does not define you. Your diagnosis does not define you. Your symptoms don't define you. It's not your personality. That's what you went through. Wow. I love that, Brittany. Thank you so much for that. So Brittany, if you could give one suggestion to anybody on the fence about starting counseling, what suggestion might you give that person?
Why not? Honestly, I mean, I feel like confident enough in what it can provide for anyone. Why not give it a try? What do you have to lose? You know what I mean? I mean, you know, some people will say, well, money, counseling is expensive. There are resources out there to help with counseling. There's so many resources, and you know, and maybe that's the case, but there are ways to help with that if that is the barrier in the way. And if that's not the barrier, sometimes that can be the excuse. Because when I first moved here, that was my excuse. Well, I don't want to pay for counseling. And that was an excuse that I used because I wasn't quite ready to dive into the work yet again, you know? So I think, why not? What do you have to lose? I mean, it's not gonna hurt to try. And if you put the time and effort in, it's okay. It's okay if you don't like the first person or the second person, even the third person. It is work to find the fourth person and to get to the point of making yourself go to that fourth appointment. But maybe that fourth person will change your life. You know, so I mean, why not possibly have that life-changing or betterment of an experience, you know, that can bring it around and, you know, maybe make things a little easier or make the anxiety a little less. And then it just makes, you know, a little bit of less anxiety during the day is a little bit more time that you're enjoying what you're doing or enjoying that moment or whatever. So why not do what you can on the forefront to like try to give yourself that gift, to invest in yourself. I mean, why not invest? We invest so much time in each other, right? Like the company you work for and the people around you, we invest in making sure the people around us are happy, and we invest in our kids, all of our time and energy. Anyone who's a parent knows that we invest all of it into our dogs or into our workout regimens. We invest into those things, whether they be for self or for workout regimens. Are they for ourselves? Are they for the appearance so other people are satisfied with the way I look? We invest so much time into everything around us. Why not invest in ourselves too?
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's what you have, right? So I think it's important to invest in yourself. So why not do it? What do you have to lose?
Love that. Absolutely. An investment in yourself. And we invest so much energy and time into other people and other things. And at the end of the day, we're what we have. And at the end of the day, we can't escape ourselves. So no matter what we do, we're going with. No matter where I move, I'm there.
Yep.
So I might as well be a person that I can live with, because I don't have a choice. I have to.
Yeah. Well, and life is so short. Be someone who's happy. I mean, do what you can do it. Happiness. You don't know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? So do what you can to be a happy person and enjoy the experience that we have here, so.
I love that. And I think, like medical model, counseling kind of gets this perception around it that, well, I'm going if something's wrong with me to like make myself okay, like to measure up, to be like acceptable, right? And it's not. It's to bring you from wherever you are to where you want to be, which is like way, can be sometimes like even a place where it's even too scary to dream yet about where we want to be, right? And so, counseling it's not about bringing us up to like acceptable or bringing us up to being okay. It's about bringing us to a place of joy where we can enjoy our lives and we can enjoy the things that we're doing. I think that's so important. And the circumstances of our lives don't even have to change. Like that's the other cool thing is that like who likes control, just like you do. The idea that like I don't have to control my surroundings. I don't have to control other people around me, because if I control me, my experience is going to be totally different no matter what anybody else.
Yep, absolutely.
And that is so important. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing all of those insights that you've learned over the years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. And thank you for the awesome work that you do with the clients and with families. And here in our leadership team at Hurt Solutions, leadership is a lot of supporting. And, it's that piece from counseling where it's support, it is problem solving, it is throwing spaghetti against the wall and going like, yeah, that worked, that didn't work, but that worked. Leadership has so many of those similar characteristics. And I think that's why, because you've got so much self-awareness, that's why you do so well in both arenas. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Brittany Weidman and I need a counselor.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Us too. I do for sure. Everyone does. Really? I mean, honestly, I think sometimes we get into like, well, my life isn't bad enough yet. In 12 step, there's this idea of rock bottom where I don't know where the rock bottom idea, honestly, it must have come from somewhere, but it doesn't come from the main text of 12 step. Like it's not in the big book where it says rock bottom is when you should do program. And same thing with counseling. Like there's nothing about counseling that says you need to be out of control in your life or having breakdowns all the time to start counseling. It will benefit you no matter where you are. And if you're doing good, great, you can continue that. And counseling will help that. So love that. Awesome. Okay, so if you are in the Cedar, or if you're in the Waterloo area, and you would like to sign up for counseling for your kiddos with Brittany, give us a call at 800-531-4236. And if you're in the Cedar Rapids or Cedar Falls, Waterloo area, and you do BHIS counseling, then Brittany is the supervisor of that area. So if you ever need to reach out to her, you know what she's about, you know who she is. Anywhere else in the state of Iowa, give us a call for therapy or BHIS, 800-531-4236.
And like Julie mentioned at the beginning, we post every Sunday night at 5 p.m. Central. So save up that laundry or that task you hate doing and listen to us while you do it on Sunday. And then we can help prepare you to call a counselor and get set up with services that week as well. And if you have any questions for us or for Brittany, you can reach us at our Facebook page, You Need a Counselor Podcast, or you can send us a DM on our Instagram, You Need a Counselor Podcast there as well. So I'm Chrissa Hunt.
I'm Julie Johnson, and we need a counselor.
And so do you.
Bye.
Bye.